So we've been asked to put this equation in center form, right? So that's where you've got x minus h quantity squared and y minus k quantity squared, and 1's over a squared and 1's over b squared. So we're going to go ahead and do that today. So our first step is we're going to segregate the x's and the y's, and we're going to complete the square on both variables. So we're going to say 9x squared minus 36x, and then here I'll say plus 2y squared plus 4y, okay? And then we're going to set that equal to, so we're going to take this negative 106, we're going to move this over and make it positive 106, okay? So we've got this broken up. And the first thing I need to do when we complete the square is this term here and this term here both have to be 1. And normally we will divide by a certain term to get it in that form, okay? To get it in that form. But the problem is you got a 9 here and you got a 2 here. You can't divide by 9 here because that won't make this 1. You can't divide by 2 here because that won't make this 1. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to factor. We're going to factor out a 9 and we get x squared minus 4x, and we'll leave a little room, and then we'll get plus, and we're going to factor out a 2 here, and so we'll factor out a 2 and we get y squared plus 2y, and we'll leave a little room, and then we'll just keep this 106 as is, okay? To keep that 106 as is. Alright, now to complete the square, what do? We take our center term and we divide it by 2, right? So that's going to be negative 2. And we square it to get plus 4. And here we take this center term, we divide it by 2, and we get 1. And we square it to get plus 1. Okay? Easy enough. Except, normally we add plus 4 here, you add plus 4 here, right? That's not the case. Because this 9 is factored out, right? 4 times 9, we're going to add 36. Right? And then here, because this 2 is factored out, we're going to say 1 times 2, and we're going to add 2. Okay? So 4 times 9 added to this side. 1 times 2 added to this side. Okay? So you add those up, and you should get 144. Okay? So what do we get? We get 9. Factor this into x minus 2 quantity squared. You start to see that x minus 8 show up. 2 y plus 1 quantity squared. Okay, so we get that. We're happy with that. That's good. Now what? Well, an ellipse has to equal 1. So we're going to divide this by 144 to get 1. Divide this by 144 to get 1, and divide this by, right? You divided that by 144 to get 1. These fractions become over 144. Okay, so 9 over 144 is going to become x minus 2 quantity squared over 16. 9 over 144 reduces to 1 over 16. 2 over 144 reduces to 1 over 72, right? And that's equal to 144 over 144, which is 1. And that is how we put this ellipse in center form. Okay? So x minus 2 quantity squared over 16, y plus 1 quantity squared over 72 equals 1. Equations in center form. What if someone asked you for the center of this circle, right? Just to know what this form is used for. So the center of this circle, this has been moved to the right 2 and down 1. Anytime that a term is grouped in mathematics, it does the opposite. So your brain says that's up 1, it's actually down 1. So to the right 2 and down 1 would put the center at 2 comma negative 1. Okay, so if they ask you for the center, there's your center. Okay, all right. So then the next question says, given this equation, let me zoom in just a little bit. Given this equation, x plus 1 quantity squared over 25 plus y minus 2 quantity squared over 16 equals 1. A, sketch the graph. Okay, so A, sketch the graph. And then B, too many papers on the desk. B, find the foci and mark them on your sketch. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and sketch this graph. And I want to show you how we do this. So we know this term here is A squared because it's the larger of the terms. And this is B squared because we know A has to be greater than B. Okay, so the bigger number is always A. That means the major axis. This is a horizontal ellipse. This is a horizontal ellipse because the major axis is in the horizontal direction. Okay. We also know that the center, going back to the one we just did, like plus 1 is going to be to the left and minus 2 is going to be up. So left 1, up 2. The center is at negative 1, comma 2. Okay, so this is the center, and we know A squared is 25, which also leads us to what? A is 5 and B is 4. Okay, so let's go over here to our graphing grid. We've got our center is at negative 1, comma 2. And we know our major axis is horizontal. Our major axis is horizontal. And we know that it has a length of 5. A semi-major axis has a length of 5 units. What that means is you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units, right? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units, okay? So that is, I can mark that on here, A equals 5, the semi-major axis, okay? And then B squared was 16, so B is 4, so that means you're going to go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And so I can come here and mark either way I want to, but I'll go down and say B equals 4. Okay? Then what? Well, it's a game of connect the dots. Can you make a nice round elliptical shaped object that doesn't look too pointy on the ends like a football? We don't want a football. We want a nice elliptical. That's not bad. Okay, so there's part A done. Sketch the graph. Done. So part B was to label the foci. Okay, well, I don't know where the foci are, so I guess I have to find them. So I'm going to come back over here to my paper, to my blank spot here, and we know that if my camera will focus, come on camera, focus. We're having some technical difficulties here. Okay, so the foci, right, we know that is C. And we know C squared is equal to A squared minus B squared. So I can say, okay, well, we knew A squared was 25 and B squared was 16. So C squared equals 9. C equals plus or minus 3. Now, what does that mean for me? That means that the focal axis is 3 units on the major axis. And I'm going to make sure we know that that's on the major axis. Always, always, always on the major axis. Okay? So if I come back to my sketch, our major axis is horizontal. So what do we know? We can go 1, 2, 3 units to the right, and 1, 2, 3 units to the left, and what do we have? Our foci. Okay, 3 units to the right, 3 units to the left from the center. Okay, on the major axis. If this were a vertical ellipse, the foci would go this way as I smear my pen. Okay, so anyway, that's how you take an equation, right, in center form and turn it into a graph. Likewise, you could take the graph and turn it into an equation. If you have any questions, let me know.